Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Joshua Roberts, your host of this limited series titled One Nation Under God. Thank you so much for your support and for your viewership and attendance today in this wonderful episode. I have this episode broken up into two parts. The first half is going to be me discussing about cancel culture, propaganda, and the effects that media has on society today. The second half of this is going to be an exclusive interview that I had with Professor Mollum from BYU, Idaho, and we're going to be discussing those same topics. Now, Professor Mollum, he's from the United Kingdom. He studied in his master's program propaganda, and he also teaches on campus about propaganda, media literacy, and of course, how we can become better researchers. It's an exclusive interview, and it's an amazing opportunity. He has a fantastic accent, as always, and I hope you guys all stay tuned for that portion of this episode because it's truly, it's just good to have another perspective on this channel. And Professor Mollum, if you're watching, thank you for interviewing with me. It was quite an experience and the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, we're going to be starting off this episode with the scripture. We're going to be reading in the New Testament of the Bible in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verses 16 through 18. And it says, quote, "The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." Close quote. This scripture recently has been resonating truly with me as I experience my own challenges, trials, and difficulties in this life, and as I see my friends and family go through similar trials and challenges. I want you guys all to know that you are not suffering alone. I know there are people out there that have been in the same boat as you, and I also know that Jesus Christ is there suffering with you. He knows you, he loves you, and if anyone loves you more, it's Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ knows you, and he even suffered for you. He suffered through all of the tribulations, all the challenges, weaknesses, temptations, mistakes, physical challenges, mental illnesses, anything that you may be going through. He has suffered. What a glorious promise it is that in a future time, our glory, which will be revealed in us, is greater than the struggles that we go through now. As we do so with hope in Christ and in faith in Christ, and as we continuously live our lives according to the gospel of Jesus Christ, we'll be able to feel of his love. And I'm truly grateful for that, and I'm grateful for him. I know that he lives and he is my Savior. I know he is your Savior. He knows us individually, and he knows us perfectly. I'm truly grateful again for all of your guys' attendance here today and viewership. I'm greatly appreciative of all the comments and all of the support that you guys have given me. I've had many meaningful conversations and debates with all of you. They've been somewhat respectful on your guys' end. We could still be doing a better job of that, but I'm greatly appreciative of all of the comments and the conversations that we're able to have, whether you're agreeing with me or disagreeing with me. Even all of the negative and positive ones. I greatly appreciate all of them. So let's start off with the effects of media. So in this world, we have social media, right? We have so many users, we have so many platforms, and it is an amazing place to where we can share funny videos, share our private lives. We can literally comment on people's posts, and we can post really anything that we want. We have sports videos, we have animal videos, we have inspirational videos, posts, everything, you name it. They got it. And so here's some rough research, a couple of rough researches that I've done. This is just kind of a generalization and to kind of inform you of where we are with social media today. There are approximately 5.66 billion social media users across all platforms. And it is estimated and projected that by the year 2027, there's going to be 5.85 billion users. Now, these are people that have multiple accounts. I, for one, have multiple accounts, and I'm sure some of you and many of you have multiple accounts as well. So there's lots of voices, lots of opinions, and definitely lots and lots of differences throughout this world. So I also have another rough estimates of different things and a very quick research if that. So some of these may not be factual, but it's definitely a rough estimate. Just a very quick Google search. Again, this is kind of just to inform you and just to give you a ballpark of what's going on in the world in terms of social media. So on X, formerly known as Twitter, there are approximately 500 million tweets a day. And remember, these are daily facts. These are just for the day. Yes, you heard that right, daily facts. So X, formerly known as Twitter, has approximately 500 million tweets a day. Instagram has over 95 million photos and videos a day. Facebook has over 300 million photos uploaded with 510,000 comments every minute. YouTube has over 720,000 hours of videos that are uploaded. So taking Facebook and Instagram, right, putting those together for the Reels portion, which honestly Instagram over TikTok, Facebook, and of course YouTube Shorts, I think Instagram Reels takes the cake. They're just funnier. It's easier to share with people. And quite frankly, I just think the humor is a little bit better. The comment sections blow me away. They're just sometimes the funniest and sometimes, yeah, there are negative. But I think Instagram Reels takes the cake. We can debate about this a little bit later. But taking those Reels, right, Facebook and Instagram, there are over 3.5 billion Reels that are shared across those two platforms. So taking all of this in, right, we have billions of users and we have millions and millions of comments, videos, and photos being shared every day. And so this is happening at our fingertips. It's super accessible. I can access it on my computer, on an iPad, on my phone. You can access it anywhere and you can share it with anyone of your choosing. You can comment on any video you want as long as they have the comment section on. So as we can tell in today's society, we have positive things and we have negative things. We are protected by the First Amendment with free speech, but like I've been mentioning many, many times, our actions, our words, and even our thoughts have consequences, whether they're good or bad. And so social media today, people choose to be negative on social media, and we see that time and time again. It's our responsibility to share that positivity throughout the world. And there's positive attributes of having social media, and there's negative, of course, as well as with anything else, right? I want to share with you some of the positives, right? Some of the positives are things where you can just connect with people, you can communicate with people, you can share funny videos, inspirational videos, fun videos. From a religious perspective, we can literally share the gospel with the entire world. There are so many positive influences on social media, and there's so many videos that uplift, inspire, and even encourage people. And those are the videos, and that's what makes social media such an asset, such a tool, in our right at our fingertips, in our hands. Now with the negatives, people are spreading misinformation. People are being super negative. There's cyberbullying, there's pornography, there's defamation. There are so many things that people give into. And so there are a lot of negatives out in social media today. And unfortunately, a lot of people give into that negativity. A lot of people either listen to it or believe that, and even sometimes spread it. And if you're a person who spreads it, I feel so sorry for you that you live your day and your life in such a negative way where you want other people to suffer with you. And that reminds me of someone that I know in the scriptures, right? Someone who wants to see you suffer, who wants to see you be sad. So if you participate in any negativity in social media, please stop. Cyberbullying is not cool. You're hiding behind a screen. You're not cool. You're not strong. And quite frankly, you probably would not have that same voice if you were right in front of the person telling them that. And so I want to discourage that, and I want people to spread more positivity. And like Christ mentioned in the scriptures, and many times that I've mentioned in this podcast, echoing his words, we need to be peacemakers. We need to be more Christ-like. We need to be more positive. And of course, we need to be better researchers. So that kind of gives into my next topic, propaganda. So a little quick definition of propaganda. Propaganda is information, often biased, selective, or even misleading, designed to shape people's beliefs, emotions, or actions in support of a particular cause, political agenda, or group. Propaganda is all over the world today. We see that. It's all over. People are very, very selective with what they post, how they post it, and who they post to. Unfortunately, we can totally see that news networks are businesses. They earn money based off of clicks and the narratives that they sell. If a news network is posting and it's very like, that has great stories and sometimes negative, sometimes positive, but if they have stories, if they have a narrative, or if they have something that's a little bit more selective and biased towards their audience, they're going to get clicks. They get money from that. And so that's how they share the news. That's what they do. And that's what they do on social media too. Lots of people earn money through social media. Sometimes people just like posting like I do. I don't earn any money from any social media sites that I have, whether it's from my streaming, from just posting on my private account, just a fun account that my wife and I have. We don't earn money, but there are people who do. And so those people desire clicks. And so they'll post anything that's biased, opinionated, rage bait, anything like that. They will post it just to get the clicks, the likes, the comments, the reposts, the shares, anything. They will post anything for that. And so we need to keep that in mind as we're doom scrolling or going through Instagram or social media or any other social media sites. We need to be careful that we understand that these are people just trying to get clicks and trying to get people to engage. And sometimes that's positively used, and sometimes that is extremely negatively used. And so it's our responsibility. And I know there's a famous quote from Spider-Man, a superhero: "With great power comes great responsibility." I see that as social media, where we have a great power at our fingertips to share, to inspire, to encourage, and to just truly connect with people and to communicate effectively. However, we have the responsibility of doing so. We have the choice of doing so. And I would hope that we would all choose to do the latter, to be better. But going back into propaganda. So propaganda ultimately destroys societies, right? It divides that more than anything. And we've seen that in our history from 1850 to 1860s. And even after that, we've seen that when slavery was a huge thing, the South framed slavery as something that was good. They framed it as something that it was like an industry. They were saying, oh yeah, we're making crops, we're feeding people, we're working the fields. And so they framed it in such a way to their selective audience and their biases to push their political agenda. Now this caused an uproar in the United States, and in fact in a civil war, and really pushed people to hate each other, to be extremely divisive. We saw this in 9/11 and the terrorist attacks in New York City on the World Trade Centers. We saw this time and time again where people were pushing propaganda, and of course conspiracy theories were tearing people apart. People were distrusting the government. People were hating Al-Qaeda. And so there was a huge difference in people and what they believed happened on 9/11. We're not going to dive too much deeper into conspiracy theories because we can talk about that another time. For now, I just wanted you guys to see how propaganda can really shape and divide people. We see this time and time again today in our society and culture now. Like right now, as you're watching this video, there's propaganda being misled or being shared everywhere. And with those billions of users and millions of comments and posts, propaganda is everywhere. And so we need to be extremely careful and very, very decisive. And we need to make sure that we see those posts and recognize and become more media literate and understand, okay, this person is being biased, this person's being selective, this one's just trying to push a political agenda, and ultimately someone who just wants to kind of form a group and just give into their own beliefs, and they don't add any facts. They just give into defamation. They give into all of those things, and they just really want to destroy people and lead people away and mislead them. So we need to be careful with that. So we need to be a little bit more aware of what cancel culture is. So cancel culture, again, we're protected by free speech, of course, but we have consequences that we need to face, whether good or bad. And it does protect your free speech, but like I said, it has consequences. Back in 2021, Donald Trump was actually banned from all social media platforms, X, Instagram, whatever. And everyone on the left, the Democratic side, they rejoiced. They were happy. They were literally posting everywhere how happy they were that Trump was out of the picture and banned, and they were just happy that they can just enjoy the Biden administration while they did, and they were just so happy that Trump was completely banned on all platforms and that he was silenced. And one of the things that really pushed his banning on that was the January 6th incident, which in fact was not Trump's fault. We're not going to jump into that at all. I mean, the BBC is getting sued for, creating a post that really framed Trump's words in a way that is not what Trump said, because no one listened to that entire speech at all. And they just gave in to listening to one post and listening to something that's more selective for them and more emotionally connecting and something that fits their bias. So they were like, oh yeah, Trump said this. Da, da, da. But that's aside from the point. But yeah, the January 6th incident really pushed this ban on Trump. And so, like I said, we'll talk about that another time. But now in 2025, we literally witnessed firsthand as well the banning of, well, not banning, but kind of the firing of the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Jimmy Kimmel was completely released from ABC, from his show, and now this part amazed me. The left and the Democratic side were looking at this and scolding the fact that Jimmy Kimmel was released and fired because, he had a horrid comment about Charlie Kirk's assassination, which also we'll talk about another time through political violence. But the left was now freaking out that Jimmy Kimmel was being canceled for having an opinion. And so now everyone was like, oh, he needs to come back on Jimmy Kimmel's show and all this. And there was so much hypocrisy in that, where they just flipped a switch just because they were resonating with someone who agreed with them and was just feeding them all of this misinformation that really satisfied their emotional standpoint. And so unfortunately, he is back. I'm not the biggest fan of Jimmy Kimmel. He has some funny skits, but in reality, I don't really think he has as many fans as he thinks he has. But yeah, like I said, many people in networks and social media networks were pushing for President Trump to be banned. And so during his entire campaign for this most recent presidential debate, people were trying to push for him to be banned because they didn't want him to be president anymore. They wanted to cancel him completely, get him out of the picture. And so there's lots of hypocrisy in that. But we're seeing that with everybody, whether it's a social media account that's just posting random content about politics, me, or anybody else. People always push for people to be canceled, to be silenced. We just need to recognize that, people have opinions, they have, biases, they're very selective with their audiences because they want clicks, they want money, they want to, have an audience. But I think ultimately that pushes us to be responsible researchers and to really dive deep into that and to not necessarily give in to those emotions immediately. So I want to give you 7 different tips and different processes that you can go through to help you guys become better researchers. And this is something that I do. I want you guys to take this and apply it to your life to make sure that you can do the same thing and just apply it more to your personal life and your individual self. So for number 1, watch the video. Okay, hold on. First. Let's just imagine we saw one social media post or something that a news network said, right? Just one. Let's just go with one post, one social media post that you saw. So when you see it, you need to watch the video entirely and you need to read the description. Many people just give in 5 seconds. That's the only attention span that people have nowadays. Unfortunately, that's the average. I don't know if it's lower than that, but you only have 5 seconds of an attention span and then you just keep scrolling. It's just doom scrolling. And so people just listen until they hear something they want to hear and then they scroll. And people never read the descriptions, which I think we need to start doing because sometimes, a lot of information is put in those descriptions. So if you're reading something or watching something, it is definitely some food for thought. Number 2, we need to recognize who posted it and what's their history of their posting. So not necessarily their history or background of what certificates do they have, what badges do they have, who do they represent? It's mainly just what are their common posts and what do they want to post? Do they post positive things? Do they post negative things? Do they put things out of context? What's their integrity? What's their consistency? We need to make sure that we understand who's posting it. And then third, we need to go to a Google site or even other social media sites and search up who else is posting about this, who else is agreeing, who else is disagreeing. And we need to kind of create this network, right? So we have this one post, then we go with the people and what they're saying in the comments. We need to make sure that we see from all angles, right? And that goes into number 4. So number 4, we need to understand what coverage is there and what perspectives are being shared. Who's on the other side? What's their perspective? So, for example, if you're on the Republican side and there's a post that you may not necessarily agree with, or you may agree with, you want to see what the Democratic side is saying, and you need to make sure that you kind of get the full picture, all lenses, all perspectives, and this goes vice versa, right? I think we need to do a better job at that and seeing other people's perspectives, their views, because everyone's influenced by several things, and everyone has different backgrounds. Everyone has different people around them, different communities, different ways they've grown up, different religious beliefs. So there's so many influences that affect a person as a whole, and we need to understand everyone's point of view, everyone's side before we jump into things. Number 5. Once we see this post, we then go into reviewing official documents. So this is police reports, government documentation, official statements from the person claiming that statement. So, like, for example, if Donald Trump or if someone posts something saying, "Oh, Donald Trump said this on X," for me, I'm personally going to think, well, anyone could, create a fake tweet about Donald Trump. People do it all the time. I'll actually go to X and Twitter, look up Trump's official page, and look at the tweet. If he didn't say it, then I know, guess what? That's false. But if he did say it, I'm saying, okay, he said that. So it's true. That's exactly what he said. So, but yeah, I shared a couple episodes ago about, looking through government documentations. That is so crucial in things that are super big, like illegal immigration, things about the LGBTQ community, abortion, stuff like that. Government documentations are your friends. We need to look at those more. This goes into another thing with number 6. So once you have created this network, right? Once you've created all of these little things, you've gotten all these facts, you've gathered everything together, then you need to look up inward, right? You need to look inward and say, okay, what do I believe? What are my opinions? What are the things that I've heard? What do I stand for? Create a backbone for yourself. Create a personality, right? You need to have your own beliefs. You need to have your own personality. You need to have your own understanding of the situation, because if someone just comes up to you and asks you about illegal immigration, right, you're going to jump straight to emotion and be like, oh, this, and this. But if you're just like, oh, well, I actually have an opinion about this, and this is why, because here are the facts, right? There's no wonder that I put this at number 6 out of 7, right? This is one of the last steps of doing research, is allowing your emotions, your personal emotions, to then kind of understand this topic a little bit better, because we see time and time again on the Democratic side that people give into emotion so easily. They just get straight into the emotions. And personally, for me, when someone gets straight into the emotions, they either A, don't have the facts, B, they don't understand the whole thing, and C, they don't necessarily want to debate anything because they don't have a backbone. And so what they'll do is they'll start grasping for straws, and they're like, well, I feel this, I feel that, I hate this, I hate that. And then there's no longer any respectful conversation. There's no open debate. There's no discussion. It's just how they feel. And you can't converse with anybody who's saying, oh, I feel this or I feel that, because that's just how they feel. So this is why it's number 6 on the list after you look at the facts. And one of my favorite shows that I watch is the Ben Shapiro show. Really, I really like him. He's kind of funny. I agree with some things, disagree with some things. But he says facts don't care about your feelings. I could not agree more. The facts literally do not care about your feelings, because at the end of the day, facts always stand true, no matter what. And so if you put your emotions aside and look at the facts first, you'll start to develop a little bit more of a literacy and understanding politics, religion, whatever the topic may be. It'll help you in the long run. So lastly, going into number 7, if you want to make a comment or a statement responding to the post or another comment, make sure you provide multiple facts. Nothing is more embarrassing than sharing something that you think is factual that you didn't research and it end up not being true. That is very embarrassing, because you will get grilled for that 100%. And so you need to make sure that you have the facts. You need to make sure that you understand the situation, understand the topic, all the perspectives. And so you need to be respectfully and openly aware that other people have opinions, and you don't need to give right into emotion just because they disagree with you or say something that doesn't necessarily resonate with you. And so we need to just stop putting this off. We need to literally just become better researchers, be more respectful to people, because at the end of the day, you're just behind the screen commenting on a post or posting something, and you need to make sure that you have the facts to back it up, because there will be people who disagree with you, and that's totally okay. Look, for me, people may disagree with my opinions, but a lot of it is backed up with facts. Literally everything that I'm sharing with you guys today and any episode is strictly through facts. If I want to share my opinion, I will say in my opinion, but it is always influenced by the facts that I see. And so we need to make sure we do that. We need to make sure that we just don't give straight into emotion. We need to understand everything from all perspectives. That's it. And so these are just a couple tips that I wanted to share with you guys. And so without further ado, let's jump into the exclusive interview with Professor Mollum. I hope you guys do enjoy it, because I truly enjoyed that time I had with him. So thank you guys for watching. And please make sure that you guys watch the interview entirely, because I think it will give you a lot to think about how to be better researchers, more media literate, and how you can recognize propaganda and recognize the effects of media in society today. Without further ado, here's the interview. Professor Mollum, thank you for meeting me here today. Just got a couple questions for you about cancel culture and propaganda and the effects of media today. So, how would you define cancel culture, and how has it affected our society today?
Well, cancel culture, I think one way to express it would be to say that cancel culture is a way to weaponize, I suppose, public opinion against a person or an institution or a cause. Usually people are the ones that are being cancelled, and it's a way to frame their voice as unacceptable, and a way to respond to that being deemed unacceptable by society, by their taking away opportunities for them. It could be that folks respond by unfollowing people. It could be that there could be some economic fallout to somebody being cancelled, that some of their revenue streams are going to be affected, that they just might lose contracts, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a way for society to respond to folks who are acting in society that they've deemed unacceptable, and then they respond by demonstrating how unacceptable they believe them to be.
Definitely, yeah. And we've definitely seen that in today's society, where cancel culture is coming out a little bit more strong than usual. So do you think cancel culture can be used as a propaganda tool today?
Well, it's a yes/no question now. It's a yes.
Yes.
Yes, it can. If propaganda is to essentially plant seeds of ideological seeds in people's minds, usually in a time of conflict. That's interesting, but it doesn't always have to be in times of war, but certainly in times of conflict. And I don't think that anybody's not going to say that we do live in times of conflict, political conflict, ideological, sociological conflict, differences of opinion, which aren't always resolved in the most diplomatic or peaceful ways. But yeah, I think that it can be used to propagandist ends, in order for people to get the outcomes that they would like. It's kind of one of those. I mean, I suppose it's fair to say that cancel culture is, for the most part, I know that there have been instances where, I don't know, a brand has been cancelled. But for the most part, we usually think of cancel culture as applying to individuals. And that isn't to say that, I mean, hey, society is welcome to have its kind of collective opinions about things. We call that public opinion, don't we? Where people feel a certain thing collectively and respond. I do think that response has been amplified in the 21st century because of our electronic devices, and we've all got a platform in a way. You don't have to be a media outlet in order to express your opinions to many people nowadays. We get to broadcast if we like, and because of that, I think that this this culture, these thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, practices around cancelling other people or causes or businesses or whatever they are has been amplified.
Sure.
But yes, I think to the original question, I do think that you can certainly use this for propagandist ends in order to usually propaganda for the most part in times of conflict is to usually make yourself or your organisation or your side look good, and to vilify or embarrass the opposite side and go, see, we told you that's what they were like. That kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That was, because I've definitely seen in society today where people say, oh, we have free speech in the First Amendment, but then cancel culture is taking away that free speech.
Yeah, a portion of that. I mean, people are free, even according to their First Amendment rights, to respond in whatever ways that they would like, including, I mean, you're not covered by the First Amendment to commit libel or slander somebody. This has to be people's best obtainable version of the truth. And then how the public decides to respond to that. I mean, is this kind of cancel culture and people getting whipped up and angry and frustrated about certain things? Is it kind of like a mob mentality thing? Do you think maybe that folks are kind of whipped up into all sorts of fervour nowadays, and being way more subjective, I suppose, in their decision making? I mean, don't get me wrong, I think we're always subjective in our decisions that we make. We're thinking about outcomes and who they're going to benefit and that kind of thing, and to what end, does this harm other people, whatever. And so I think that collectively sometimes the conclusions that people make about particular people, about their performance in the public space, especially public servants, especially elected public servants, that people are very much entitled to their opinions around those things, and their opinions, I suppose, in the strongest sense, can be demonstrated in open and fair democratic elections.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because a couple episodes ago I talked about how our choices in words and in actions have consequences regardless of what it is, whether it's good or bad.
Sure.
And so cancel culture definitely has its consequences. And free speech definitely has its consequences, because if you choose to say certain things, sure, it may be protected by free speech. However,
doesn't mean to say that isn't. Yeah, I mean, it could be inflammatory. I mean, it could be tasteless, it could be tactless, it could be, for even the majority of people, it could be offensive. But if it doesn't come under the things which are not covered by the First Amendment, then you are at liberty to say it. But does that always mean that we're going to have a decent society? So that's the risk you run, isn't it? When you say, hey, we've got some rules of the game, and the rules of the game are really quite broad, and we've got a broad spectrum of people in society, then you're going to get all sorts of different things. Yeah.
So you teach several classes here on campus, talking about media literacy and kind of the effects of media and social media and stuff like that. So how does media affect our society? How is it shaping it? Negative, positive? What's kind of like the most, I guess, effect, or like the biggest effect that media has on society?
Well, media will always affect society for the most part, in very small ways, some very subtle ways, and then some very big and profound ways. But I think it's important to mention what shapes society more readily than the media. I think often it's a bit of a bogeyman sometimes, isn't it? Oh, the media. I don't know, like something really awful or tragic or heinous or vile, like a school shooting or something like that. People will go, what kind of movies were they watching? What video games were they playing? And it's like, what caused them to do this?
We see that a lot.
We do. And so that's kind of like a little bit of a so kind of classic, it's become a cliche, isn't it? But with media effects, it's not a case of monkey see, monkey do. It's actually far more subtle than that. And just to make it clear from the outset, the more profound, impactful causes for behaviour and thinking specific ways, bigger influences, if you like, more profound, powerful influences in people's lives are family, religion, and school and community. Now, you might have somebody, it can be argued as well that's, I mean, if you think about kind of the way that you are, Josh, with the way that you behave, some of the ways that you think, some of your political attitudes, that kind of thing, where did they come from? What was bequeathed as an inheritance from mom and dad, grandparents, brothers and sisters, that kind of thing. So our family looms large in our lives with regards to, I mean, it's Thanksgiving this week. Is there going to be some political conversations around the table, that kind of, some big opinions expressed? And it's interesting because in great part we call them our formative years, and they're usually in the home of our parents. Now, that said, there are plenty of people that don't necessarily have a traditional or a regular or a typical family dynamic, but arguably it could be still said that the absence of family can have a profound effect on somebody. And so thinking about those dynamics, like, are you an only child? Have you got brothers and sisters? Have you got just brothers, just sisters? Are they older than you? Are they younger than you? So these kind of relationships, this dynamic has a profound effect on the way that we kind of view and experience the world. And whether we soak all of that up wholesale or whether we reject a lot of stuff and form our own opinions, it was still on the springboard of that these opinions were formed. And so family's a big one. Religion, and again, and I'm religious, you're religious, but that's certainly not to say that the rest of the world is. There are lots of folks in the world who are religious, but and for the most part, religion is a set of values that informs the way that we view and think about our relationships to each other, to God, or gods. All of these things that and what our place in the world is, and so we will filter our experience through that. And again, the absence of religion very much will inform the way that people view the world. I mean, does someone who's irreligious view someone who is religious as benighted, or good people just doing their own thing? And so again, all of these things are on a very broad spectrum and not just one or the other, off or on, yes, no, black or white. And then the other thing is kind of community and school, where we live, who we live with. These have profound effects on us. So what I'm saying is our relationships with people have got much broader, profound, deeper effects on our lives than the media does. That said, though, all of those groups kind of swim in a media-saturated society. Definitely. Notwithstanding we're soaking up stories that have been given or bequeathed as an inheritance from our forebears and from our friends, and we're soaking up kind of these narratives. We do have the media out there peddling all sorts of different things, and so the media does affect us. But again, it's not in a monkey see, monkey do kind of way. It's often more limited in the way that it affects us. But for example, if we are watching the news, and the news for the most part will cover bad news more readily than it will. You don't turn on the news and it's like news just in, everything is awesome. Because that's not really news, is it? No. In order to progress narrative and in order to be relevant, it has to be, guess what's happening? This is a really big deal. Conflict progresses narrative, so you will often get conflict. You'll get more bad news, you'll get the murders, you'll get the rapes, you'll get the robberies, you'll get the wars, and all of these other things will be covered more readily because they are something that will attract attention. If someone says a dog bites a man, it's like, oh well, dogs do bite from time to time, so what did you do to the dog to upset it? Is it a bad dog, whatever? But if someone says man bites dog, it's like, there's the news. That's different, that's strange, let's talk about that. So sensationalism, conflict, these are things that are often in the news. Does that therefore, because we're often getting these negative, pejorative portrayals of society, does that lead us to believe that society is a worse place than it actually is? Again, with the news, with quite strong biases politically on one side or the other. Both sides do this, and they've been doing it more readily since the 80s when it was President Reagan, wasn't it, that did away with some of the legislative requirements for the news outlets to be not unbiased but more objective. They were required to be that by law. He took that away, and there are arguments to be made for doing that and not doing that. Reasonably cogent arguments either side. Let people just decide, let people choose. If they want to have their news with this kind of hint of whatever, a flavour of this, then people are going to go. It was more like a kind of a consumer thing, which I think as a professor of media literacy and mass media and society, one of the first things that we teach people in order to be able to navigate the news and politics and that kind of thing is kind of follow the money. I mean, the news, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, Newsmax, these are businesses, and they're looking to create revenue streams for their shareholders. And so they need eyes, they need clicks, they need engagement. And so if they can give something more of what people want, I think one of the things as human beings, we are creatures of habit. We often like to be told that the world is according to what we think it is. And so if you view the world from a kind of a more right-leaning lens, then you're going to resonate more with what's on Fox. If it's more left-leaning, then MSNBC or whatever. And so you will feel more validated and less challenged by doing that. What was, just remind me of the original question, because I started to get off track.
No, that was perfect, because I think it was more or less on the question, does society today trust the news more or less today? Oh,
okay. So with I do think that people, I mean, since the advent of 24-hour rolling news and dedicated news channels, it used to be that we'd get the news like morning, noon, evening, night time, like almost like 3 or 4 times a day. And so that would give journalists and news organisations an opportunity to cover what they felt was important. But now, when it's constantly rolling, how do they fill the time? If you watch a 24-hour rolling news channel, you'll see that they are still divided up into kind of the day's got different shows and different presenters and different things that they're going to be covering. But they will often, almost in 15, 20-minute cycles, just repeat the headlines and where they're at. And so that will be a thing. So there's a lot of repetition in the news now, which, as far as repetition is the mother of all learning, they say, don't they? So that's one way to inculcate an audience, and if things are repeated, especially if specific themes are repeated, then more than likely people will start to believe that sorry, just not the microphone, but a certain thing is more important than another. This matters because it's being repeated. With 24-hour rolling news as well, you are more than likely going to get one of the core functions of the news. The primary function of the news is, number one, surveillance. And by surveillance, I don't mean there's an ice cream van or a pizza van at the end of your street listening to your internet activity. Not that kind of surveillance. Surveillance in academic terms, as it relates to the media, is simply letting us know what's going on in the world. It's surveilling the world and saying, hey, this is important, this is timely, this is relevant. And so that's surveillance. But then one of the other functions, core functions, primary functions of the news is to correlate, and that's make connections with what's going on, surveillance, and then what is going on, what that actually means to us. So they will say, this is what's going on and this is what you should think about it. And that can be, this is terrible, this is awful, and there could be a lot of opinion there, but it could be way more subtle, just in the way that things are framed. Do you call this group of people in society illegal immigrants? Do you call them undocumented aliens? Do you call a piece of contested land in the Middle East? Do you call that an Israeli settlement, or do you call it an occupied territory? And that kind of framing can be part of that correlation. It doesn't always have to be really on the nose with these people are bad. I mean, a lot of things we can just hear in the news and it's just axiomatic. It's self-evident that this person has done a terrible thing, and we all know that. They
Yeah.
don't say this is awful.
Yeah.
But again, more subtly, depending on the language that reporters choose to use. And I don't know if the average viewer of the news, not because they're dumb, just because they haven't necessarily had to develop these skills.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all right for me as a professor of media to say, oh, I can detect bias. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I should hope so. But yeah, media literacy, I think, is something, especially in a media saturated society, and dare I even say a post-truth society. We are living in a post-truth society where, rather than objective facts and things being fact-checked and verified,
Yeah.
leading the way that people think, it's usually more emotive than that. It's less empirical proofs with this is an objective fact and this is how I feel about it, and I feel really strongly about it. So people's emotions and how they feel are more likely going to steer them towards what they engage with and what they ascribe as good or valuable or virtuous or true, those kind of things. That's what we mean by post-truth society. It's not like everything's fake news.
Yeah.
It's there's just a lot of, there's less value placed on empirical proof and more value placed on personal feelings and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot in our society today, where social media posts, news organizations, they target emotion.
They do.
And,
Yeah, they
people
do.
give into that.
Yeah,
right?
they target it and they track it, again, because it's a business. I mean, and if you can see what people are, and the social media companies are very able to see what is floating people's boat, what's stressing people out, what people are liking, sharing, putting angry faces on, smiley faces, thumbs up, whatever, all the emoticons kind of thing. And then they are able to essentially sell that information. And we've all, and this isn't some conspiratorial whatever, we've all just said, yeah, that's fine. In order to use this service for free, it's kind of this unwritten contract, social contract, that we've all just said, yeah, we're fine for you to just kind of use us as guinea pigs, if you like. But more importantly, that they can leverage financially, and they can sell that information on to people. And they will argue, almost in the spirit of the part of that Reagan argument for making things more subjective, they will say, well, we just want to give more of what people want to them.
Exactly.
So, again, for a free market offering, you could say, well, hey, okay, that's it. But when people get more of what they want, what's that line from the Rolling Stones? You can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you get what you need. I don't know if we actually get what we need anymore, and we end up getting what an algorithm thinks we want, and that actually narrows and narrows and narrows our potentially perspective of the world, because the viewpoints that we start to soak up and feel validated by are less broad and are less inclusive. And I'm not saying inclusivity is some kind of loaded term to trigger kind of right-leaning people. It's just, it's not very inclusive. It could be less inclusive. It could be you're getting a lot of left-leaning stuff, and it's not inclusive of stuff that leans to the right, so that you will understand more empathically, and have a better understanding for people who simply don't think like you and I.
Yeah.
Check your
this
things.
real quick. Perfect. Yeah, we're doing really good.
Good.
So one thing to add on to that, one thing I'm trying to teach my viewers and the audience is how to be better secondary researchers, not to necessarily listen to like one side of the media that basically suits our fancy, but also go to the other side and kind of gather and network some things. So you talked about navigating, right?
Yeah.
And us as citizens of the United States, we need to navigate our research a little bit better. Because we got people like news stations and social media posts that are trying to basically give into what we want, right? And kind of the emotions that we have towards those things. And you said something about conflict is kind of pushing the narrative a little bit. And, I actually really like that, and I totally agree with that. So for all the viewers at home, how do you What are some tips and I guess some advice that you can give them to help navigate kind of media today and stuff like that, and get what we need, not what we want necessarily?
Yeah, absolutely. There is one thing I think that this is a point that's made by he's a humanist. He's also a media commentator and a journalist and a writer. Is a chap called Alain de Botton. And I think he's British Swedish or British Swiss, I forget. But either way, he's done a lot of reporting for the BBC, and that's not to say that the BBC hasn't got bias. I think it was in trouble a week or so ago for not being as objective or as fair and balanced as it really ought to be. They do, for the most part, have a reasonably good reputation for being fair and balanced. I think that. Some of their political opponents, I suppose. I do think it leans left, and to say it's slap dab in the middle is inaccurate. That said, this chap Alain de Botton, he was talking about some of the things that we ought to understand about the news, and he said that in free and open societies like here in the US, like the majority of Europe, the UK, where I'm from. We usually view censorship quite poorly. Yeah, we think, oh, that's undemocratic. We think censorship, we think North Korea, we think kind of like, like wartime Germany and censorship from Moscow and that kind of thing. And we usually frown on that. But the interesting thing is, you could either take information away from people, which I don't think is good. I think we need to have an informed society in order for society to make good decisions. But if you give people an excess of information, one of the points that he makes, he goes, hey, when there's an excess of information, just like if you ask the majority of, especially young people nowadays, do you engage with politics or the news? And a lot of them will say no, and they'll just say, and when you ask them why, they'll say, because it's just really in your face, it's intense, and it's like non-stop. There's an excess of it. And when there's an excess of it, especially when what's being reported on is often conflict-centric, chances are, mentally speaking, we'll turn the volume down in our head, and we'll actually be less informed. My argument for if people say, oh, well, there's lots of negative stuff on the news, I would say, don't turn down your engagement with the news. I would say watch more news, but watch more varied sources of the news, and appreciate from the outset that one of the things that the news is doing is whipping us up for its own ends. You can't look away. This is soap opera. This is cliffhanger. Well, we'll be back to tell you what's going on. We want to keep you informed. We want to keep you empowered. And the funny thing is, if you go and look at any of the big news outlets, right wing, left wing, whatever, look at their mission statements, and you could literally swap out the names and they'll all pretty much read the same. Pretty kind of aspirational, kind of inspirational, even kind of mission statements that they will make of saying, this is what we hope to achieve, this is what we intend to do, we think that America is better for us being here. But obviously, when you know what particular flavour of Kool-Aid that is, on one side or the other, it will either resonate or you will be outraged by it. And so, one of the things that you can do is, one, follow the money. Appreciate that this is a commercial enterprise, that they are about readership, they're about clicks, they're about viewership, they're about audience engaging. Otherwise, they don't get to sell the advertising space that goes alongside this content. And so they would not be a viable business if they didn't keep the viewership where it needs to be. And you are more than likely, if you placate an audience and if you tell them that they're right and that they're good and that they're virtuous and that they've made the best decision, they're way more likely to stick around than if you challenge them every day. But one of the things that I think, in order for us to understand and grow, is to be challenged. Again, it's kind of conflict. So choose to engage with, on my phone, I've got the Telegraph, which is a British right-leaning newspaper. I've also got the Guardian, it's a left-leaning newspaper. I've got the New York Times, left-leaning. I've got the Wall Street Journal, right-leaning. And in order for me to really get a clearer idea of what's going on in society, and probably land somewhere in the middle. Do you know the big secret about America is as well that America isn't tearing itself apart. America, I think, has got some political division, but America's always had political division. When you look at the results of the elections since, I don't know, like just post-war elections, Second World War elections right up to now, they're not 70-30, it's not 85-15, it's pretty much margins of 2-3%'s a landslide kind of thing. And so people have always had their political preference, but for the most part, people are quite moderate, for the most part, but the louder, more divisive voices are often peddled on both sides because, again, conflict progresses narrative. So understanding that the news is whipping us up for its own ends, appreciating that this is something that those ends are financial ends, and that's not a conspiracy, that's just they're employing people, they've got shareholders, they need to be fiscally responsible in order to give their investors a return on their investment.
Exactly.
And so that would be that. So helping people to understand how to navigate in those ways would be, hey, in order to understand and appreciate this Kool-Aid that's out there, you need to drink from both sides in order to understand, okay, what, and ask that question, and also look at a similar subject like the conflict in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine and Gaza and those kinds of things, and be aware of how they are framing things. Like the example I used from that was, does one side call these Israeli settlements, these contested spaces, which that sounds like the Israeli settlements, that sounds like the Shire for Jewish people. It sounds really nice. Who wouldn't want to visit an Israeli settlement? I mean, just the word settlement, the connotation of it. But then you've got someone else talking about the exact same subject, but framing it pejoratively or negatively by saying occupied territories. That feels completely different. And so being able to recognize the way that different kinds of language frames the same story will help good citizens to be informed, and not just citizens. I mean, I'm not an American citizen. I've got a green card. I'm a permanent resident, another thing that the news helps us to do. So it surveils, it correlates, it tells us what to think about what's going on, and also it transfers culture. So thoughts, attitudes, beliefs and practices, this story machine that is the news is always informing that, and we're soaking that culture up. And that isn't to say, again, that we haven't already got cultures in our lives, collective, community, family, religion, whatever it is, or the absence of all of those things has shaped our view of life's experience. But the news still plays a big part in that.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time. You've given us a lot to think about, lots of good advice, lots of good tips, lots of good perspectives, and it's really good to have, perspective from people who've lived in other countries for pretty much their entire life, and looking inward, right, and also outward. And no, you've given us a lot to think about, and I greatly appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Josh.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Appreciate you.
See you later.